One Halloween evening, Andy sat slouched on the couch, absent-mindedly, flipping through channels on the TV. It was another boring evening in a house that didn't quite feel like home yet. His parents were away on a vacation, leaving him home alone for the weekend. Not that it made much of a difference. Andy was used to being alone. Being a military brat meant moving every few years, and making friends had become an impossibility. Why bother when you'll have to say goodbye before long? The low hum of the television filled the living room, but Andy's mind wandered. He stared at the screen, but his thoughts drifted to his parents and their perfect little getaway. He was happy they could take a break, but he wished they'd have taken him too. At least then he wouldn't be stuck in his empty house surrounded by unfamiliar streets. Suddenly a loud knock echoed through the house. Andy sat up, his heart skipping a beat. Who would be knocking at this hour? The clock on the wall read 9:45 p.m. He wasn't expecting anyone, and his parents wasn't due back for a couple of days. Another knock. Slowly, Andy rose from the couch and moved towards the front door. He peered through the small peephole, expecting to see a neighbor or maybe a delivery by mistake. But standing on the porch was something that made his skin crawl. A boy about Andy's age stood there, but something was horribly wrong. The boy was holding something in his hand, something that made Andy's stomach churn. The boy was cradling his own head in his arms, his face twisted in an eerie grin as it looked straight at the door. His body stood unnaturally stiff, like it was waiting for something. Andy's breath caught in his throat. Do you want to come out and play? The head in the boy's hands whispered. Do you want to come out and play? The voice muffled through the door. Andy's hands trembled as he reached for the doorknob and slammed the door bolt shut. His heart pounded against his chest as he stumbled back from the door, shaking his head in disbelief. This had to be a nightmare. He blinked, hoping that when he opened his eyes, everything would be normal. But the boy's words echoed in his ears, sending a chill down his spine. Do you want to come out and play? Do you want to come out and play? Do you want to come out and play? Andy bolted to the living room and sat on the couch, trying to convince himself he had imagined a whole thing. Maybe it was just the loneliness getting to him, or maybe he was just tired. Hours passed and silence filled the house once more. Andy had nearly convinced himself it was all a trick of his imagination when something tapped against the window. Tap, tap, tap. Andy froze, dread curling in his stomach. Slowly he turned to face the window. There, staring through the glass, was the same boy, his body pressed against the window in his hands. He still held his head, his eyes locked on Andy's. His grin had stretched impossibly wide, as if the act of smiling pain. But he didn't stop. Come on, Andy, the boy called out in an eerie tone. Come outside and play with me. Come on, Andy. Come outside and play with me. Andy's chest tightened and he stumbled away from the window, his legs trembling beneath him. He ran to his bedroom and locked the door, his mind racing. What was happening? Who or what was this thing? His thoughts whirled, but the same questions gnawed at him. Why did the boy know his name? The night dragged on and Andy didn't dare move from his bed. He could hear the boy outside walking around the house, tapping at the windows and whispering for him to come out and play. His voice was always soft, teasing like they were old friends. By 3 a.m., Andy could barely keep his eyes open. He sat curled up against the headboard, trying to stay awake, but exhaustion tugged at him. The whispers had grown quieter, now almost fading into the night, and Andy wondered if the boy had finally left. Suddenly, a loud bang rattled the bedroom window. Andy's eyes snapped, and there, pressed against the glass, was the boy again, his head still in his hands, but now his expression has changed. The grin has vanished, replaced by anger and frustration. Andy, come out and play, the boy shouted, his voice filled with fury. You can't hide forever, Andy. Andy, come out and play! Andy's heart raced, panic surging through him. He had to do something. Grabbing his phone, he dialed his parents' number, desperate for someone to answer. But the line only rang, and no one picked up. He was completely alone. The knocking grew louder, more insistent, and the boy's voice grew darker, more menacing. It echoed through the house, sending shivers down Andy's spine. "I'll find you, Andy! I'll find you, Andy! Come out and play! I'll find you, Andy! I'll find you!" He couldn't take it anymore. Andy bolted from the bedroom and ran down the stairs, his mind in a frenzy. He had to get out, had to escape. But as he reached the front door, he stopped in his tracks. Standing there, just inside the doorway, was the boy, his body waiting, head still cradled in his arm. His eyes gleamed with a twist of delight as he grinned at Andy, whispering one last time, "I'm creeping in the door, Andy. I'm creeping in the door. Come on out and play, or I'll come in and play." Andy used all the strength in his entire body to shut the boy out and yelled, "Andy, come out and play! Let me in, Andy! Come out and play!" The sunrise. Laying there, crouched under a kitchen table, shaking in fear, stood Andy. He didn't move for 2 days until his parents arrived. As soon as they came in the door, all they did was see him crouching under the table crying. "Andy, why are you under the table? What happened?" he responded. "I don't want to play. I don't want to play."